Very good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our FAQ session as part of the kickoff to this week's Business Festival. Really pleased to be joined this afternoon by Karen Williams, James Tennant and Charlotte Marshall from East Northants Council and the Recovery Through Enterprise project. I wonder perhaps, ladies and gents, if a good place to start this morning might be for me to throw to the three of you just to introduce yourselves, say hello and perhaps tell us a little bit about the work you do day to day. Who wants to go first? Karen, do you want to go first?
I'll make a start then. So hi everyone, my name is Karen Williams and I'm Tourism Development Officer at East Northamptonshire Council. And a lot of people will know me because I've been around for a very, very long time. I'm very old now. So one of my key projects is Destination Nen Valley. And it's all about developing and promoting the Nen Valley as a competitive and sustainable destination. So we work with lots of different partners along the Nen Valley corridor. So it's a specific stretch of geography from Northampton to Peterborough, and it kind of utilises it, well, it runs across that River Nen corridor. And we work with all the local authorities, businesses, partners, volunteers. So it's a fantastic partnership which has been running for 8 years now, and it just continues from strength to strength. So you might have heard of the Nen Valley Festival, which we started about 6 years ago. And obviously that hasn't happened because of COVID, and obviously that's one of the reasons that we wanted to put the business festival together. So it's all about bringing that business community together to see how we can support each other during this very difficult time. So that's me in a nutshell.
Perfect. I don't know who wants to jump in next. James, do you want to perhaps go next as I work left to right across my screen?
If it's your left to right, Ben, as the joys of Zoom means that everybody gets a slightly different left to right. I'm happy to go next. So yes, I'm James. I'm the Business Account Manager with Enterprising East Northants. So working alongside Karen, my main focus is in business support across East Northamptonshire. And now we're also offering that to the Borough Council of Wellingborough. And soon, of course, we'll all be talking about North Northamptonshire. So that will begin to encompass Kettering and Corby. But I'm sure we'll talk about that later on during the week. So my main focus then is in working with businesses, small, medium or large. I've offered support to some of our corporate businesses up and down the roads here, engaging with government departments if that's necessary. Equally, some very small businesses or startups who are asking questions about how do I do this? Do I need to ask permission? Which is very kind if you're starting a business to phone the council and say, am I allowed to do this? And that genuinely does happen. And so we talk about that. Through to people moving premises, sometimes we can support that. Equally, we're involved in all sorts of conversations about the challenges that the business environment faces. You know, we were doing that before COVID, and we were looking at some of the issues about travel to work and buses and part-time work and women coming back to work and all sorts of issues around that. We've also been really keen to make sure that there are elements of business support that really make a difference. So we've got a business support program, which has been working for 2 years for us, building business. And they've been delivering one-to-one support for our local business community. And we've also accelerated a lot of this through the pandemic, really. So that continues. And there's currently free membership of the Federation of Small Businesses for any local business in East Northamptonshire. There's now a one-to-one support program for Wellingborough, high street and retail businesses, for example. So all sorts of elements that will come out as we talk during the week. And what's really exciting is Lottie's about to follow me. And I guess we've gone from the most senior Karen, I'm not going to put it any other way, but if Karen says 8 years, I think Enterprising East Northants, which is my brand, has been 5 years. Yeah. And then I'll hand over to Lottie. Do you want to tell us a little bit about joining Enterprising East Northants?
Okay, I'm Lottie Marshall. I've been working for Recovery Through Enterprise only for just over a month now. 2 days at the unit and then working remotely, like the rest of the world. I'm basically promoting any of our partners. We've got local businesses as well, so a lot of social media for me at the moment, across LinkedIn, Facebook, and we've got Twitter accounts as well. So any information, any jobs, any business support, that all comes through me, and then I do my bit to advertise it all.
Perfect. Okay. Well, we are here this afternoon to broadly chat through what we've billed as some frequently asked questions and some themes and topics that I understand you guys coming up against fairly consistently with some of the businesses that you're interacting with day to day. I suppose before we get to that though, just a kind of a question from me to kick off perhaps for the three of you. The inquiries that you're kind of getting from businesses day to day, I would imagine that you are kind of fairly busy, understandably right now, but are the kind of inquiries and questions people are bringing to you fairly common and fairly uniform, or are you guys actually finding that, you know, the last few weeks and months have been a bit of a learning curve as you've been rapidly kind of chasing down all these very specific, maybe industry specific questions and stuff?
If I can jump in, I think, Ben, to begin with, in the early pandemic, there was almost silence really. And I think if we can remember back, things did go very quiet. We weren't quiet, but I think things did go very quiet. So there wasn't a lot of noise early on. I think there was a lot of shock, wasn't there? But that changed quite quickly. And I think a common theme that we do get is there any money that can help me? Because my business is really struggling. And that'll be quite a common theme, I guess, through some of the sessions that we're going to talk about during the week. There is money available. It's slightly different in different areas. So if you're tuning in or watching this again from a different part of the country, your local authority will have some support, but we recognise that the support does vary. So that's quite a common theme. But with that comes a conversation. I think the other thing is that people just need to talk to somebody. And when I speak to businesses one-to-one about grants as part of our process, then there's always a longer conversation about something else. And that just opens up. I guess, Karen, you're finding the same, aren't you, really?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've lost my thread now.
We can edit that bit out, that's fine.
That's fine.
Carry on, James.
So businesses they're asking about money, but then they're also asking, they're wanting to talk about how painful the journey's been and how they've felt about things.
And I think as well that they obviously, like you said, they want somebody to talk to, but I think a lot of our businesses, the tourism businesses, want to know, you know, let's be positive, let's think about, you know, at some point we'll be open, and how can we kind of collaborate together to make that kind of happen, really. So from a tourism perspective, all the businesses that I've spoken to are asking, well, you know, Karen, what have you been doing for tourism? What are your plans for spring onwards? You know, what are Visit Britain doing? So I think really, rather than say to them, this is what we think we should be doing, this business festival is going to be very useful for, is the fact that we will have an accommodation providers forum, so we can actually brainstorm. So it's not just about me preaching to the businesses, it's that two-way dialogue, so they can also feed in, because they've got some really good ideas actually that I haven't actually thought about. And we're all in it together, aren't we? So it just makes sense to kind of collaborate where we can.
I think so. And I think from my perspective, the local businesses that I have spoken to, a lot of them are now prepared to work in partnership, which is great. They realise that they can reach out, that yes, they were maybe perhaps a competitor to start with, but they can actually help one another, and we're there to kind of facilitate that for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so true. I mean, somebody came to me early on in the first lockdown and said, I've got this great plan for how local businesses can do something together. Would the council do X, Y, and Z? And it was really lovely to be able to say, well, you're talking to the council, and I think your idea is brilliant. And if you want me to talk to those people with you, I will help you with that. And we had a couple of conversations about shaping the approach to local businesses and what that might look and feel like. I support him straight away and say, yeah, we're dead keen to do that. And so absolutely, Karen, and to reinforce your point, we do want to listen and dialogue. And I'm always conscious that the council traditionally can be looked as the one that's pointing the finger and saying, don't do this, don't do that. Actually, our service with the grand title of economic development is very much about listening and partnering and understanding and getting alongside. And yeah, and it's lovely to hear that tone come across on social media as well, Lottie, and kind of collaboration and advertising or whatever it might be between businesses. It's such a, I think that's one of the real highlights for me of them coming together during this time.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, in which case then I'm going to throw to you then, James, perhaps to start us off this morning, and we can start to work through some of our frequently asked questions that I know you guys have been receiving on a fairly regular basis at that end.
Thanks, Ben. So let me jump in a little bit. So we've explained the University Gateway service. It's just behind me, the phone number for it, if you haven't phoned them already. So the University Gateway, people often say to me, look, where is all this information? I just want to talk to one person who can tell me what there is out there. And that's what the University Gateway service does on 01604 892 328. I'll just check that's right. It is. I got it right. I've learned it. So if you haven't written that down at home already, or you haven't phoned them up, for a phone call, about 40 minutes, you get to talk to Paul, who's our business advisor. And Paul will run through everything you can possibly think of at the moment that he knows about that's relevant support. And these are the questions that they very commonly get asked. So just what might happen. They are being asked all the time, how do I access government grants? Where is the information? And really common theme with that is the information is really unclear. So on that, we're really aware that the titles of the grant pots are unwieldy, they're difficult, they're cumbersome. They have words like local and restrictions and additional, and we struggle to make sense of them as well as businesses. So when we talk about them, we know that the language is difficult, but we are working together with the university to try and make sure that information is clearer. But equally, we've got to work with the language that we've got. The bottom answer to that one, really, bottom line is your local authority homepage will have a link, and you need to go to that. So eastnorthants.gov.uk has got a page, COVID Business, and on there, that's where our information is. Wellingborough, the business rates page at Wellingborough has that information. It'll be the same in Corby and Kettering and other authorities. And then people ask, a common theme with that, is there any other funding apart from the funds based on having rateable premises? Because people realise that in the first lockdown, a lot of money was paid out based on having rateable value on your business premises. And the reality now is that there are grants for which you do not have to have a premises. So, for example, we are paying out to driving instructors in East Northants and people involved in beauty or personal care or fitness. They don't have premises because they might be mobile, quite literally. If you've got a car, I hope you are mobile or were. That's really key theme. I know that kind of resonates as well. Karen, you get that kind of question with B&Bs, don't you? How does that fit?
Yeah, so obviously with the business rates, a lot of our businesses fall through the crack because they don't pay the business rates, but it could be an extension to a house where they've got a few rooms. So what I found when I'm out and about in a COVID secure way, so sensible, is a lot of people just don't know where to phone, or they think they're not eligible. And I've always been saying the same with you, James, is, ring the local authority, 01832 742 2000, speak to somebody there. We are there to help. Just explain, what your key issues or what kind of help and support you will need. And our colleagues in customer services will obviously put you through to us, and we can help and support you. But rather than stay at home and think, oh, I don't think I'm eligible for a grant, do pick up the phone, because you probably are eligible, but you need to take the chance and just give us a call, and we are there to support you. And it is difficult times. We still are supporting people with their and doing all sorts of wonderful stuff with planning, etc. It is quite busy, but we are there to support you. So, just pick up the phone.
I think a theme that sits alongside that, Karen, absolutely, is not really knowing whether you should or shouldn't apply, and to back that up. Our view is to say, to find out, ask us, because we have got funds.
And am I right in thinking, because obviously I haven't applied for the grant, it's quite a lot of people have this perception that it's quite a long-winded process. It's quite straightforward, isn't it?
It is, and what's lovely, so I make the phone calls to businesses that have applied. If we don't know them already, we have to do a sort of fraud check phone call. That's what we're doing in East Northants. And people are pleasantly surprised that actually it wasn't that long and complicated. Questions about who you are and what your bank account is, and there'll be some financial questions, but we ask as little as we can and as much as we need. And the process is very quick, and we're trying to turn it around very fast. So, to try and reassure all the authorities in Northamptonshire are, if you're watching this from another local authority in Northamptonshire, I know that's true because I do talk with my colleagues across Northamptonshire. And equally, if people over the border in Peterborough, we still love you if you're tuning into this call, or Cambridge, Lincolnshire, whatever, your local authority teams there will similarly be working hard and fast to get the monies out. Let me just give you another strand then. So the university also say a common thing that we've heard, and it's been picked up all the way through, is what about me if I was a a lady, I'm a female sole trader, I work from home, and over the last 2 years I've been on maternity leave. What can I do? Because I'm struggling to access some of the other funds and services. And I've tried the other government schemes, but it's not working for me. Or if you are the sole director of a limited company and you trade from home, what about you?
That's me.
That's you, Ben. Yeah, we know that you guys, you know, been really productive, got a company set up that, you know, we revised to set up like that. And suddenly all the monies that went out, you couldn't touch. Well, currently at the moment, certainly again, in East Northampton, we can help and we are able to offer support to both those categories. And one of the other things that I say is we don't scrutinise what you have and haven't applied for. So if you've applied for a CBILS loan or self-employment support, I'm not going to scrutinise that. I'm not doing a check on that. You apply to this fund, we do our checks, and we will pay. And the amounts that we're paying, just to give us sort of an idea, the government has set the targets and parameters. If you declare a turnover of around £75,000, the government says that you're eligible for £1,344 a month. We didn't pick that number. That is the number that we will pay to. And that's the kind of amount of money that we're paying out. If you are able to apply for something else, in self-employment support, then, and that's appropriate and it's reaching you, that's great. But we are at the moment, I'm glad to say, supporting some of those people that missed out earlier. I know that's not always the case in all authorities, but you know, just because you're the director of a limited company at the moment, that doesn't exclude you where we are. But I equally know that in some parts that might still do. And there's a lot around. So the university will say the word discretionary as well. What does that mean? And part of the problem was that early on there was not a lot of discretion in the guidance from government, and that has now changed. So I think the last thing I'll say on that is if you applied before and were refused, then don't let that stop you having a look again. Here's a bit of a headline as well. When the government makes announcements, and you know the day this goes live today, if you're watching live, Boris Johnson, Prime Minister, will have made an announcement. We won't have known anything in the detail of that until he said it. And there will be a time delay between government announcements and local authorities across the country having the information. So all we ask at that point is bear with us, because we will try and understand what it means and what we pay out. And the pots of money have changed their titles. They change with tiers, and you know, we may not have tiers again, we may have something else. We will work to make sense of that for you. And the bottom line is we do want to help as much as we can.
Okay. And how often is that landscape shifting? How often are you guys having to kind of learn where all of the lines fall again, because everything's kind of moved on slightly? Is it kind of a constantly evolving process for you guys?
It is. Yeah, I think it is. You know, every tier change, and Northamptonshire went through quite a brutal gear change. It felt very crunchy, you know, over Christmas, really. You know, just as we were starting to read the guidance that came out for tier 3, then we went into tier 4. So although people were technically on leave over Christmas, they started reading the guidance on tier 4. And then before we got to the end of the tier 4 guidance, we were in lockdown. And so then we used that guidance. And you know, navigating all of that just becomes an administrative and bureaucratic headache. And you know, my colleagues have worked flat out, you know, alongside us to make sure that we make sense of it and we have a robust scheme, you know, that's auditable, because we have to account for what we do, but also keeps pace as well, really. And it's frustrating when you feel like you're running to stand still. But yes, things are changing. And I think another keynote kind of comment in the whole pandemic is that things do change very quickly, don't they? That's just where we're at. We're in an evolving situation, and it's change is the new norm. It's a horrible but true statement.
Okay.
So if we put to one side for a moment the kind of questions around finances, really, you get other questions that get asked about sort of development needs, which is really exciting. So the university and we get asked, you know, is there any support? You know, I'm discussing my business plan or thinking of writing a plan. Is there any support to help me plan? I'm thinking about my digital content. A very common theme is there anything to help me with digital websites, social media? Those questions get asked very commonly. I don't know what you guys feel about that?
Yeah, and that's what's really good about the business festival. I'm sure I've just put into the program, actually, the University of Northampton are running a webinar. I'm sure they're doing it with FSB, and it's all about if you're starting your own business and those kind of key steps in kind of starting out. In all the sectors, there's going to be quite a bit on social media and getting yourself kind of digital ready. So one of the things I've come across is a lot of our B&Bs, for example, they're used to getting their regular clientele and have the last 20 years, and all of a sudden those people aren't coming back again, and all of a sudden they have to tap into a new market and they haven't changed their website in 20 years. So those are the kind of things really we want to support businesses to get them ready, and little steps really, because a lot of the businesses have got a lot to learn. But again, that's what's good about the business festival. I'm going to be putting together some one-to-one sessions for people, for example, they haven't touched social media, they haven't got a clue how to start a Facebook business page, they wouldn't know where to start with Twitter. So it's about just giving them the tools really to be able to have a bit of a dabble and have a play, and the key thing for me is that we are always there to support them. So we'll run one-to-one sessions, but if they're always struggling, I'm always there to help and advise. So yeah, very positive really in terms of how we can support businesses moving forward.
Sure. I mean, of course, the great thing. Sorry, Charlotte, go on.
I think tagging on from that as well, I think it's just letting our local independent companies know that there is support out there in terms of we can put you in connection with the right people. So if you've got recruitment that we can advertise for you, or whether it's getting your product out to wider areas, that's always something that we can facilitate for you. Because I know that some independent companies that have got sort of one or two products that they're generally only stocking in one place, it's sort of cross-referencing that, and then, like I say, working in partnership, and then getting the products delivered. I mean, I don't know if you guys are aware, someone like Fits and Saxby's, just as an example, they actually deliver each other's products, so then they can cover a wider area. So that's quite
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, so you can order each one from each company, and then they go across the whole of Northamptonshire, which is always good news when we need a little tipple on a Friday evening.
That's brilliant.
That's a great story, Charlotte. And I guess we learned that through, we did get inquiries about the Rushton Lakes unit. We had a Rushton Lakes unit, and we hope to have that open again as soon as we can. And that relationship sort of built through that. Do you want to talk a little bit about Rushton Lakes unit? Because people do say, what happened there then, and when will it be open again?
So Rushton Lakes was in connection with Made in Northamptonshire, so all local products falling under the category of Made in Northamptonshire. So you just pay a nominal fee, and you get advertised on their website for your products. And then obviously they advertise on social media as well. You can purchase the products through the website, and you can purchase through the individual websites as well. So that was sort of a walk-in store, anything from jams, chutneys, cider.
I think it's fair to say we tried quite a few of the products, didn't we?
We have, yeah, we might have sampled a few of them, yeah.
Which I'd just like to point out you paid for as well.
Of course, we're supporting local as well, of course. And then the other side of it, obviously recovery through enterprise. We were working in connection with all of our partners, so there'd be specific days where you can speak to specific people. Example might be university on one day, it might be that you've got the Mallows, it might be that you've got DWP. You can speak to different people, and we're the sort of first point of contact. So if you're not sure who to speak to, then we're definitely the people to speak to first, because we can then point you in the right direction. But obviously that's not happening face to face at the moment. It is all virtual, but we are still all here to help anyone that needs the support.
Yeah, that's great, Lottie. So I think the website recoverythroughenterprise.co.uk is the kind of front door for the shop at the moment, isn't it? There are pages on business support and fast track job match, and there's a contact form on the bottom and phone numbers on the bottom of each page. So anybody who's saying, well, so what is there out there? Or, okay, I saw your FAQs video, or I was part of the business festival. What else can you do for me and my business? Or we'll have that conversation about how the shop worked in the past, how it will work, we hope, when it reopens, and the other connections. I think a kind of key theme in all of that is, I used to say to people, when you're starting a business, it's really important to make good connections. Actually, I think the theme for now is it's really important to get good support. And you might be getting that good support from a family friend or relative. It might be a neighbour. It might be somebody across the other side of the world. It doesn't matter who it is, but actually get connected to get that support from somewhere. If that conversation with us is part of that, and then, you know, through the shop, you access further support, or through Destination Nen Valley, you access additional support. That's what we're there to do, is just to say that build those support networks that help you thrive and grow.
And that's anything from jobs, new businesses, that's if you've been made redundant, if you're unemployed and you want things fixing like your CV or your interview skills, it's literally a whole host. It's not necessarily just one specific thing. It's anybody that wants to get into employment and anything business related as well.
Fantastic. I have to say, I really enjoyed the kind of cross-pollination. So, you know, it might have been somebody coming to buy a bottle of gin because it was near to Christmas, but actually by having a conversation with them and talking about what we do in terms of business support and helping people, you know, find employment, you know, there were examples where, well, actually, I've got a member of the family who's actually looking for an apprenticeship, and you're thinking, actually, you come to buy gin, but actually we can talk to you about this. And we had people that had come in who didn't even know about Made in Northamptonshire, but they were obviously producing jams or things of that nature. And they said, you know, can we you know, promote our produce on the shelves? So we put them in touch with Made in Northamptonshire. Then we had somebody in who was making some delicious coffee. And he said, well, how do I get it to all of your B&Bs? So it's quite interesting, you know, they're coming in for one purpose, but actually by having a conversation, there's so many kind of spin-offs and ideas and opportunities. We were really excited. So I think, you know, we're looking forward to be able to open again. So hopefully that will be fairly soon once we know, you know, the next steps for, you know, recovery.
I think so. And like you say, the cross-pollination, it could be something as you go in and you find that you've got some meat products that you see on the counter, but then equally you might then go to the butchers and you see that they've got some sides on offer, or they've got some beer to go with your meal, or whatever it might be. So the cross-pollination thing is definitely a really, really big part of it. And then, like I say, just having that conversation with somebody could lead down to a different pathway.
Yeah, and I think what's really great is we're supporting local producers in Northamptonshire. So, you know, from my perspective, obviously I'm supporting the local the tourism businesses and the visitor economy. But obviously, you know, that's a great opportunity to promote food and drink in that sector. And I think it's fair to say that some local producers have fared better than others, but it's still incredibly difficult times. So to be able to showcase your products at Rushden Lakes, and, you know, they usually on a normal day welcome, you know, 6 million visitors a year, it's a great opportunity. And I know as well, because the unit is closed, they've been able to open a shop at Jay's of Earls Barton, which is great. So to be able to work in partnership to see how we can support those producers, as with a lot of the sectors that we're working on, is really, really important. So yeah, no, you know, there's some good work taking place at the moment.
It's exciting, isn't it? And I think, you know, you talked about cross-pollination and just that relationship building, really. I think one of the things that we've missed is that kind of interaction, and it's hard to replicate it in the digital sphere. There are people doing things to try and make it happen, but it's still tricky. It's still uncomfortable. You know, I think social media is one of those places where you find that. Hence, quite often the question: how do I link up with people? How do I build my profile on social media? That's still a very common theme, isn't it, as well?
Yes.
Just to, you know, perhaps draw this conversation to an end, really, about some FAQs, but there are other themes that I hear really about, you know, when do I know if enough is enough? I'm not kind of preempting when do I stop my business, but it's more the question of how long do I wait before I need to do the next thing? And actually, I'm waiting at the moment. I'm still talking to people who are saying, I'm just waiting for things to come to an end. And then equally, I have another load of conversations in the last sort of week or so, people saying, well, look, this isn't working for me, so I'm going to need to do something different. And how do I know what that different thing is? And how do I know that thing is going to work? And making that change from, I was really good at this, so will my new idea work? And that's quite difficult. I think we're really conscious, I'm very conscious, although we're the council, that, you know, your business, if you're a small business, you're a sole trader, it's your brand, it's who you are, it's very personal to you. And it's very close to your heart, and you live and breathe it. And when it's hurting, you're hurting. When it's doing well, you're doing well. And so making that change from, you know, my service or line just isn't getting the market that it was, changing it to something else is really can really feel like, you know, it feels like you're abandoning a child to go for another direction. When do I do that? And how do I do that? And who do I talk to? And well, do I talk to anybody? Because if I talk to somebody, they'll nick my idea. You know, there's all of that in the background as well. So, you know, the business support line at the university, they won't go into very great depth on that, but they get that that's where you're coming from. Building Business, our one-to-one support package, very much understand that and will offer you that kind of confidential and independent support. But it's important to underline on that point, we're not precious about who you're talking to. I've joined a couple of networks in the last couple of weeks. There are many business networks out there, a couple that have started up, some that have closed during the pandemic. There's a lot of changes being going on. I think, you know, one of the key strands we would say is you find the business networks out there that work for you. Some of them are free, some of them are paid. We've talked about Made in Northamptonshire, great food producers network. There is a fee there, but there's a return for what you get. Look at those options, look at how they might work for your business. And like anything, you know, if you're going to make an investment in that time, be confident it's going to do something for you. There's everything in Northamptonshire, from the Northants Chamber, and there's the Wellingborough and East Northants Chamber, which is a smaller group, and then there's local grassroots business networks, which are kind of free to access weekly or monthly calls. So have a look at all those support.
And I think you mentioned briefly earlier on, there are opportunities to join Enterprise Nation and FSB as well. But to clarify, they go through the gateway as part of the, you know, I'm really interested in joining FSP because it's linking me up to lots of different partners. It's the university number, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, so two of the key strands of the Recovery Through Enterprise Programme for businesses in East Northants are that you can access free membership of the Federation of Small Businesses. We pay a year. Why are we doing that? Because we identified really early on that people were asking questions about legal. You know, they've got contracts they need to redraw. They're asking questions about HR. You know, they've got a couple of staff and they want to make sure their contracts are right. They've got health and safety questions. Am I trading right with COVID? Am I got my medications in place? Am I looking after myself, my family and my business? And we can't offer that advice as a bespoke service, but the Federation of Small Businesses can. It's worth saying on that note that the environmental health team at East Northants Council are doing a webinar as part of this, and they are a first point of call if you're involved in something that needs health and hygiene. So you're working with people closely in personal care, or you're working with food or with animals. Your local environmental health team are there to support and advise you. We will do that. But behind that as well, there's the Federation of Small Businesses. So it's a great access of support. And then, yes, you're right to say Enterprise Nation, really great national organisation that puts people in contact with other people who will give them one-to-one support. With Enterprise Nation, you've got that kind of free offer as well, which is worth exploring. Free webinars, free national networking events, free support forums that are really, really lovely and are actually where people are at right now. And then buy into and dip into other services if you want them. And so we're promoting that because it's another great connection to be part of. And there's key businesses in Northamptonshire that we know that get a lot out of Enterprise Nation. So those are some of the packages. I always say people, we're not on commission. We don't make money out of this. No, I'm not sitting here watching pounds. That's not how the council works. You know, we're a public service. We're trying to offer a mix of support at the moment and looking to the future with Northamptonshire. This conversation will continue. We'll look at what other avenues of support we can offer, and we'll be talking to our networks and key contacts to say, so what else is there? What else should we be doing?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm going to do just a plug for my tourism businesses. Obviously, next week we are going to have a webinar from Visit England. So they're going to give us a bit of an update on what's happening for tourism, or what they would like to do, or what they might think will happen from spring onwards. But there are things like social media one-to-one sessions. There'll be an accommodation providers get together because we haven't spoken for quite some time. Obviously, bring your own coffee, bring your own biscuits. But also we're now, as part of Destination in Valley, working with a rural PR agency. And I'm hoping they'll be able to help us with some top tips on getting your kind of website ready and, you know, the things that you need to do to engage with journalists. So hopefully there'll be a nice variety for all the different sectors, lots of things for business startup. I think you mentioned accountancy. I think that's one of the webinars. And I think I picked up, there's quite a few webinars from Winter. I think, James, you're probably best the best person to kind of clarify what Wenta does, but I think it's fair to say there's so many kind of levels of different business support and people doing different things. I mean, Wenta are doing some incredible kind of webinars, so I've added them to the mix for next week because I thought it'd be really useful.
There is, I think, what we're going to see in this country this year is a real acceleration in free to access business support and advice and guidance through a mix of virtual content, because the one-to-one isn't there anymore. And so organizations with beautiful titles like Wenta and another thing called SEMSUP. And then,
oh, never heard of them. Oh,
we haven't mentioned the SEMLEP Growth Hub. And these are great, you know, it doesn't really matter what they mean, but
no.
I hope that the Business Festival program throughout the week gives people an opportunity to dip into bits and pieces and go, oh, I didn't know, you know, South East Midlands Startup Program. Okay, there's one of those. There's the Library BIPC Startup Program, you know, the British Library System. That's great. There's the South East Midlands Local Enterprise Partnership Growth Hub. They've got a mix of stuff, particularly around Brexit and trade at the moment, but on a whole host of issues. Wenta, the Watford Enterprise, I'm going to get the end of it wrong. Somebody will hit me on the head with that.
I've no idea.
They grew out of Watford. So Wenta has a great portal as well. And we're not precious about where people get their help and support and advice from, but some of the mix is going to hit everybody's kind of needs right now. And I guess you just got to find and navigate and grab that. And you know, that's what we want the Business Festival to do, to showcase that.
Yeah. And is it worth mentioning, maybe this is an opportunity for Ben to have a say. We've been doing some really podcasts with a lot of our businesses in our towns as well, haven't we? Is it worth just mentioning that, Ben, if I can hand over to you?
Yeah, so we've had a really interesting few months actually, meeting businesses all over the Nen Valley for the podcast series. Everyone from bakers, gymnasiums, who obviously had an interesting time trying to adjust to being socially distant and stuff. They were doing classes in the car park and all that kind of stuff. And
oh, wow.
It was really interesting, actually. I think meeting so many people from so many different sectors, I think there was kind of a danger almost that it was going to be a struggle to know which story to kind of pick, actually, and to try and work out quite how we were going to begin to tell some of these stories, actually. But there's been some really interesting kind of common themes through all of them, actually, in terms of things like adaptability, being able to kind of move quickly and identify an opportunity early. And obviously, you know, we've kind of found businesses that speak to those kind of stories quite well. But yeah, I think they're the things that has really struck us, actually, the whole way through this process of meeting these is actually just how kind of resourceful people have been, regardless of what sector they've been kind of working in. Yeah, the kind of the extra lengths people have been going to, the kind of things they've been doing this last year to keep in touch with people, to keep growing, and to keep doing what they're doing has been absolutely amazing. Actually, it's been really heartening for me personally this last couple of months, meeting everybody and kind of hearing those stories. So yeah, we're really excited to share that series of podcasts with people and to get those stories out there this week.
Fantastic.
And I think people can now see sort of a light at the end of the tunnel. I think it's making people realise what they can do and what is available, rather than you can't do this or you can't do that. Actually, you can pick yourself up. You just got to adapt it and channel it in a different way.
Yeah.
And then there is the support available to help you do that.
Fantastic.
It's great. It's absolutely. It's really heartening. It's a great joy that the Business Festival allows us to tell those stories. You know, and as a council, again, we're not kind of picking one business and saying, oh, look, this guy's great, go and buy his stuff. You may do that if you want to, that's your choice. But actually, these people, all of these stories are examples, and we share them. The ethos of this, the vision of this festival is to share these stories through these podcasts, to inspire and encourage people to just pick up and connect locally. You know, you pick up the phone or get on social media afterwards. If you hear someone saying something that sounds really interesting, you know, get in touch with them and say, that's a great story. I'm really glad I heard about that. Can I tell you about what I'm trying to do? Make those connections. And I love that point you made earlier, Lottie, about competition and collaboration. Both words start with C, like the other C word we won't mention. But competition, collaboration, actually, you know, if someone's not in direct competition with you, if you can collaborate with them, what a great asset. You know,
yeah.
Streets have worked out that works. If they can work together, they're stronger like that. local food producers, we've been trying to, you know, showcase that as well. There are so many other ways that, you know, people can collaborate together, which is really exciting.
Sure. I mean, we even had the example on one of the podcast episodes, actually, of Pegasus lift training in Wellingborough, who through a combination of kind of staff going into self-isolation, and they personally were shielding and stuff as well. And in the end, they got to a point where their competition were going out and delivering their training sessions for them, and they were kind of turning their competitors loose on their clients to kind of work together and to be able to go and deliver that kind of stuff, actually. And I mean, that felt to me a real gamble, actually, but they were saying that, you know, the trust and the kind of the respect that they built up with that competition over the years actually meant that they were able to kind of approach it very much as kind of a collaborative process. And everybody kind of ended up winning off the back of it, I think, actually. But yeah, it's been an interesting one. I think some of those kind of lines that people draw sometimes have certainly been erased, if not kind of smudged a little bit this last year.
No, absolutely.
That was definitely a really interesting podcast, that one, Ben. Sort of explaining that the kids have gone off and done something else, and they've managed to find themselves employment, and then you've got the parents sort of landed with the business, not really sure where to go. There are some really interesting podcasts, definitely worth listening into.
Well, I can't wait to listen to them all then. Sounds good.
An excellent advert, you guys. I like it. We've teed it up beautifully there for everybody to go and check them out. And I should note, actually, while we're on the subject of the podcasts, they're all available: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, all the kind of usual places that you'd normally get your podcasts from. And there's also blogs going up on the Recovery Through Enterprise website as well, with those little episodes in them as well. So yeah, plenty of places people can find out more. Cool. Okay. Karen, James, Lottie, did you guys have any other kind of questions on your list, or any other areas that we needed to discuss this afternoon?
I think that's summed most of it up, hasn't it?
I think that's the key themes. I'm just conscious of how much editing you're going to need to do now, Ben.
Yeah, and also we don't want it to be too long, do we?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, with a bit of judicious editing, we'll be able to get it down to kind of
unless you want us to sing the website, you know, we could come up with all about this is the website, this is the telephone number, this is the LinkedIn page, this is the...
Yeah, well, what I'll do is, I mean, the editing side of things, to be honest with you, with one eye, I've been taking some notes as I've been going along at little times that I need to refer back to take chunks out. But to be honest, I shouldn't need to do a kind of a massive amount of editing. Obviously, I'll take this little chunk out that we're in here. But just to wrap up, what I'll probably do is I'll pick up again and throw to all of you and kind of thank you for your time and being a part of it this afternoon, and just give the three of you the opportunity to kind of shout out where people can find out more from the kind of the pertinent calls to action, whether that be the Nem Valley site, the Recovery Through Enterprise site, the shop, whatever you guys want to specifically shout out, if that's all right. Cool. Great stuff. So we'll try that again. Cool. Well, really appreciate the three of you taking the time to join us this afternoon. Thank you very much for your time and input out there. I just wonder, before we go and wind up this webinar for this afternoon, whether the three of you would like to kind of shout out any particular calls to action or important bits of information that it's important that people remember and take away with them from today.
I think James should start with recovery.
Do you think? You're very kind. So the website we've created is www.recoverythroughenterprise.co.uk, and that website is being updated with the program that we're talking about. That's where the Business Festival program is. And the stop press page on that will tell you, when there is new information that we think is critical for businesses in the local area, we'll share that. So I'd really encourage you to get onto there for your first point of call. That's where the phone number is for the university, which is just behind me. And that's where you'll find information around our Fast Track Job Match program, which aims to support people looking at employment changes and challenges at the moment as well. So please go there. But Lottie, you need to tell us about the social media as well, don't you?
We do, yes. So we've got LinkedIn, so at Recovery Through Enterprise, that's our main page. Anything job related is a sub page off of that under Fast Track Job Match. And then recently we've got a Facebook page going, again at Recovery Through Enterprise, and so share it, follow it, any information popped on there from our partners, any new jobs, any sort of local producers as well, because we do like to have some fun stuff on the page as well.
Perfect. And Karen, you mentioned obviously some of the specific work you do in the travel and tourism sector. Did you want to give a shout out for the Nen Valley site where people can find out more as well?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, we produced nenvalley.net. So obviously that's your go-to guide for the Nen Valley. We have a specific page for businesses, so you can find out more about the work that we do if you want to hear the latest from Visit Britain, but also has those key webinars and things that are coming up that will be supporting your businesses. So definitely have a look at nenvalley.net. I would also encourage you to follow us on social media. That's also a good way to kind of keep up to speed with what we're doing. For social media, just follow us on @_NenValley. We have a Nen Festival page, and please tell me if I'm wrong, James and Lottie, the Enterprising East Northampton, it's @Enterprising N? Yes. Follow us for that as well, because that's the best way to find out what might be happening on a daily basis. So between us all, we're all shouting about all, you know, the key projects, all the latest news. So that is the best way to follow us.
I must go. I've got to get home.
Cool.
No, that's fine. That was
appreciate
lots of
your time.
fun.
Thanks a lot, guys.
It's a lot of fun. Thank you so much. And we'll keep in touch.
Thanks, guys.
Ben.
Really appreciate it.
Bye. Bye.
Cheers, guys.